One point I want to make, India could have done better with its strategic petroleum reserve. Now, in my view, India should have, not now, after the crisis started, much before that, acted more smartly. And the rupee is falling, and the other day Indian Express said it might even fall to 100 rupees to a dollar. And let me mention what the possible solution can be. One, U.S. removes the blockade and releases a part of Iran's frozen funds. Then the two parties sit together, and before that, Iran restores the passage through Strait of Hormuz, what it was on the 27th of February. She says that once when there was need to appoint the army chief, Benazir Bhutto, the Prime Minister, calls her and says, please do something to support Benazir's candidate. Can you imagine the Prime Minister asking the American CDA? Now that is what Pakistan is. Will the United States recognize its fault in the year it is celebrating its 250th anniversary and do some correction? Well, dear friends, I am very happy to be with you once again with the hundreds of thousands of viewers of HW News channel. Let us deal with 3 or 4 topics during our conversation. I have in mind, if you agree, 1, President Trump's visit to China, then the situation in regard to the war on Iran, then the BRICS foreign ministers level meeting in Delhi, and last, Imran Khan's fall in 2022, the role played by the United States. Now, coming to the first topic, that is President Trump's visit to Beijing. Well, it is very interesting that Xi Jinping should have made a reference to Thucydides' trap. Well, Thucydides, as we know, was the historian in Athens, and he wrote about the Peloponnesian War, that is the wars between Athens and Sparta. And he said that it was the rise of Athens and the fear that this instilled in Sparta that made the war inevitable. Obviously, the implication is that it is the rise of China and the threat which America perceives could result in a war. Now, this has been much developed by a political scientist by name Graham Allison. It is he who, in fact, made this part of the current discourse. And sometime in 2017, the year President Trump visited China last, the Harvard Kennedy School came out with a study saying that in the past 500 years, there were 16 cases of potential for conflict between a rising power and an established power, and that in 12 out of 16 cases, they came to war. So we conclude war is not inevitable, but it is rather likely. Now, should there be a war between America and China? It will be on Taiwan. And on Taiwan, Xi Jinping spoke to Trump without mincing words. He said that unless the matter is handled properly, it can lead to conflict. He used the word conflict between United States and America. Then there was talk about the arms sale by America to Taiwan. As we know, the Congress has passed legislation to sell arms worth 14 billion, 1-4, to Taiwan. That was done in January, but Trump has been sitting on it. Well, now the thing is this. Trump has made statements casting doubt on America's willingness to defend Taiwan. He told one news agency he can't think of a war 9,500 miles away. And he also said that as regards the 14 billion arms sale, he will keep it as a bargaining chip. Well, we are not sure whether that's a wise decision. China is not going to let him get away with it on the one hand, and on the other hand, the Congress can force its hand by passing the same legislation again with a 2/3 majority. So the bargaining chip can explode in Trump's hands. Now, coming to other matters which they discussed, the so-called, the deals which Trump wanted, the so-called 3 Bs, beef, beans, that is soybeans, and Boeing aircraft. Now, with regard to Boeing aircraft, Trump said that 200 Boeing aircraft will be bought by China. Well, the market was expecting a much higher figure, and in fact, the stock price of Boeing fell by 4%. Now, Trump, in his characteristic style, said, the total purchase can go up to 750. And about soybean and beef, no deal was particularly announced, though American sources have claimed that there was going to be export from the United States. Now, soybean is particularly politically sensitive for Trump because it's grown in states with strong Republican support. But as it happened, China has started buying soybean from Brazil. Now, the other matter discussed, Iran. Trump claimed that Xi Jinping told him that China does not want Iran to have a nuclear weapons, but there has been no statement from China. In fact, earlier, much before Trump went there, Beijing had said America was resorting to the law of the jungle. So that is that. Now, coming to the second topic, the war on Iran. I say the war on Iran because it was started by Israel and America with no reason at all. So just today, but America's Monday, Trump said that he has called off a military strike on Iran. Now, just before that, I think one day before that, what did he say? Let me quote him. For Iran, the clock is ticking and they better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. Time is of the essence. Now, let us look at it calmly. Of course, the clock is ticking for Iran in the sense that the political costs are rising. The price at the pump for the motorist is rising. And the percentage of Americans who believe that Trump got them into an unnecessary war, that is rising. 20,000 flights in Europe have been cancelled because of shortage of jet fuel. Many hundreds of Americans also would have been affected. So the price is rising for Trump, no doubt about it. Trump said that he postponed or cancelled the military strike on request from the leaders of UAE, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, out of respect for them, as he put it. Now, question is, why did they make that request, if they made the request? Well, the position is that Trump is in a dilemma. If he bombs Iran for 2-3 days, then it will not have any impact. And he will be criticized. Why did you do that? And if he goes on bombing Iran, well, the assessment is that Iran can withstand it for 3, 4, 5 weeks, during which time Iran can and Iran will devastate the oil facilities in the GCC. So that is the reason why those 3 countries apparently requested Trump not to proceed. Well, very briefly, as we concluded in our last conversation too, Trump is getting checkmated, And then another thing is also happening. That's also interesting. Trump is making a lot of money from this crisis. How? A lot of insider trading is taking place. Insider trading, as we know, means, somebody who has got knowledge about something which he has no right to, which is classified. And using that, he or she buys or sells stocks. Okay, that is insider trading. Now, Bloomberg said that 6 million barrels were sold in 2 minutes between 6:49 and 6:51 a.m. on a particular day, when at 7:05 a.m. Trump made a very important announcement on Iran. So the suspicion is that Trump's family business is making money. And even the Nobel laureate Paul Krugman, he too has said that it is happening. Well, for Trump, everything is business. Now, there are 2 important matters in regard to the Iran issue. One is the Strait. Actually, the Strait falls within the territorial waters of Iran and Oman. It is not an international waterway, as America says. International trade is passing through it, but that doesn't make it international waterway. Now, Iran has established a new authority which will charge some fee. What is wrong with Iran charging some fee? After all, there is an administrative expense in administering the strait, you know. Now, of course, Iran might to start with charge a very high fee because it wants compensation. But, if diplomacy is given a chance, there is a solution. And let me mention what the possible solution can be. One, U.S. removes the blockade and releases a part of Iran's frozen funds. Then the two parties sit together, and before that, Iran restores the passage through Strait of Hormuz, what it was on the 27th of February. Now, coming to the nuclear matter, the Obama deal, as we have explained, of 2015 was good enough to make sure that Iran will not make a bomb. But just to take care of Trump's ego, there can be a deal a shade better. But Iran will never permit or agree to parting with the enriched uranium, 400 or 450 kg, to America. At the most, it will agree to send the same to Russia, but against which Iran will insist on revocation of sanctions. Now, if that happens, the world will be happy except for one man, Netanyahu, who has been dreaming about attacking Iran for the last 40 years. Now, I believe it is reasonable to make one man unhappy and make the rest of the world happy. Now coming to India's, in this context, India's economic position, very briefly. The PM has shared his concerns and counseled austerity measures. In my view, we all should cooperate because the situation is difficult. But one point I want to make, India could have done better with its strategic petroleum reserve. India has about 38 million barrels. That is good for 7 days. Now, India, after United States and China, has the maximum number of motor cars. Okay. Now, the United States has about 714 million barrels, 18 times that of India. And China, 900 million barrels, about 24 times. Now, in my view, India should have, not now, after the crisis started, much before that, acted more smartly. And the rupee is falling, and the other day Indian Express said it might even fall to 100 rupees to a dollar. Well, in 1965, when on my first posting to Madagascar, the rupee was 5 rupees go to a dollar. Now, there are some economists saying that, the falling rupee is good for exports. They don't understand. I'll tell you why. India's trade deficit is $333 billion. That is, our imports are 775 billion and our exports are 442. So it's good for exports, but is it good for our imports? Okay. And another thing is that the consequences of shortage of fertilizer will have long-lasting impact. Now, let us move on to BRICS. But before that, India's policy towards this matter needs correction. There have been some correction, but that is not good enough. That I will explain when we come to BRICS. There was no joint communique when the foreign ministers met. Mainly because we are told because UAE and Iran were at loggerheads. So we got a chair statement and the outcome document, which is very verbose, more than 8,000 words, But there is one paragraph which I liked. It clearly states that Palestine should be established pre-1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. That's a most welcome correction to India's stand, because recently at the UN and elsewhere, India has not been voting correctly in this matter. Now, let us look briefly at what made Imran Khan lose power. He was Prime Minister in Pakistan in 2022. Well, America arranged for a regime change. What happened was that the Pakistani ambassador in Washington was talked to an American diplomat, and the message was sent to Islamabad that Biden wants Imran out. Well, the military got the message, they start working. There was a no confidence motion. Imran lost the vote, and a little later, he had to resign. A little later, he and his wife were arrested. Various charges, national security. They were not sort of giving to the Toshakhana, the treasury, the gift they had got from foreign governments and all that. Well, most of them were kuta. Then election was delayed. In 2024, the election took place. Imran Khan's party lost its symbol. The election commission said they can't use it. And still, election was won by Imran Khan's people, who many of them contested as independents. You see? And then what happened? Again, the PML, that is Pakistan Muslim League, Nawaz Sharif, and Pakistan People's Party, they go together and form the government. That they rigged and cheated. So that is that. Now, I want to say a couple of things. I had read in the autobiography of an American diplomat. She was DCM, Deputy Chief of Mission in Islamabad. She says that once when there was need to appoint the army chief, Benazir Bhutto, the prime minister, calls her and says, please do something to support Benazir's candidate. Can you imagine the prime minister asking the American CDA? No, that is what Pakistan is. So now comes the question. Why is it that Pakistan did not become a democracy? The answer is in many parts. One, of course, is that between Congress and the Muslim League, Congress was more democratic in its decision-making than the Muslim League, where Muhammad Ali Jinnah ruled the roost. But there is another reason about which not much discussion takes place. In 1953, there was a new prime minister in Pakistan, and Dogra. He was earlier ambassador in Washington. So Nehru said, let there be a plebiscite in Kashmir as a UN resolution wanted. And Nehru was looking for an administrator from a neutral state. Then what happens? In comes a man called John Foster Dulles, Secretary of State, whom my generation used to refer to as Dulles. So he visits Pakistan in May 53, and he was impressed with the Pakistan military, and he tells Eisenhower, listen, Soviet Union was going to explode its hydrogen bomb in September. And US thought that it might be necessary to have its soldiers deployed abroad. Now that was working out very expensive because one US soldier would have cost about $3,515 a year, whereas a Pakistani soldier will cost only $485. You see, 1/7. Now, so Eisenhower agreed. Good idea. Eisenhower got it wrong. Eisenhower thought that Pakistan will spare the soldiers deployed elsewhere. Pakistan had no interest. And American military aid started pouring in. And Nehru said, well, if your intention is to take Kashmir through military means, let's forget about plebiscite. And that is what happened. India was prepared. Now, one more point. In 1954, Pakistan and America signed the Mutual Defense Assistance Treaty. Let me tell you, in 1958, the first coup occurred. Now, if you look at the next 50 years, for, let me see, 33 years, Pakistan has been under military rule, direct military rule. Now, last point. Even when it is not under direct military rule, the military has a big say in matters, internal and external, and foreign policy in regard to China, America, and India is determined by the military. And as you know now, Munir, the field marshal, he towers above the prime minister. So that is the story of Pakistan's, the journey towards democracy, which was stopped by the United States. Question: will the United States recognize its fault in the year it is celebrating its 250th anniversary and do some correction? Thank you, dear friends, for lending me your ears.